So welcome everyone. This is We Are Endurance. And today we are going to be talking about half marathons. We're going to be talking about good ones, bad ones, things that we've done to make them better. We're going to talk about hydration, nutrition, and all that good stuff. And this was actually a brainchild of Bill Jones, who is here with the ice cream in the background. Bill had suggested that we do this, and I thought it was an excellent idea. So this is going to be more of a roundtable discussion, and everybody's going to be able to participate. Why don't we? I'm gonna save you, Bill, for last. I'm gonna start with Jeanette. Jeanette has done a bunch of Disney marathon, half marathons. I don't know what other half marathons you've done. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about your running background and,
Okay, well, first off, I miss all you guys. Hi, I hope to get back into it. Work is gonna slowly die down, so I could probably join you guys on Sundays again.
Great.
Running background, I've basically done all my half marathons except one have been run Disney. The one I didn't, that was not Disney, I did the Eisenhower Park, what was it, the Snowball Challenge. I did that a few years ago, which ended up being like a training run for one of my Disney races. And it was the race where you could do either a full marathon or a half marathon, but it was loops around Eisenhower Park. And being that I am a very, very slow runner, the marathon people were like lapping me constantly, but I finished. In fact, by the time I got there for the half marathon, they were all out of half marathon medals. So they had to mail me the medal weeks later. But yeah, no, I've predominantly done the Run Disney races, and the Disney Princess is my race. That's the one that I do every year, which, I'm a huge Disney fan and love Disney.
So tell us, Jeanette, what do you love about the Disney races? What's like the best part about it?
I get to go to Disney World.
There you go.
Well, it's an excuse to go to Disney World. What else is there? And I get to chase that Daffy Duck,
which is very important.
Yeah.
Did you see him the last time you were there?
I think so. You know what? I did see a guy wearing a Daffy Duck t-shirt. I was like, oh my God, I got to take a picture of this for Hillary. But he already walked past. I was like, all right.
What do you think of the back roads?
It's actually kind of cool because you get to go backstage in areas that you wouldn't normally get to go and kind of see behind the magic, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, it's the course is great. I predominantly walk it just because the last few years I've been doing it, I've been so poorly out of shape and training and everything. But I mean, you get to run through the castle, which is just absolutely amazing. But unfortunately, by the time you get to mile 7, 8, it's just stretch of highway and it's just killer. You're like, okay, all right, no, I still got 4 more miles to go. Oh God, keep going, keep going. But it's definitely a lot of fun.
Which was the worst one that you've ever done?
I don't know about worse. Like I said, I think I've done a total of 7. 6 of those were Disney Princess. 1 was the Star Wars, and 1 was the Snowball race. I have to say the Princess I just did in February was a tough one. I was poorly trained, as you guys know, because I did whatever with you between COVID and getting wisdom teeth pulled and everything. I was so poorly trained. I decided to do the challenge, which was the 10K and the half, which I did complete. But by the time I did the half, I started early in the race because I knew I needed all that buffer, and I'm there taking pictures and strolling along until I get to about mile 8. when I find out that the balloon ladies, who are basically the sweeper, if they passed you, they're gonna sweep you up and take you off the course. They were 5 minutes behind me. And I also have to throw in, it was crazy hot and you had to hydrate. And what happens when you hydrate? You have to pee. So around mile 8, which I said was the tough part anyway, I really had to pee. And then I found out the balloon ladies were behind me. And for the next like 4 miles, I'm like, I had to pee so badly. I'm like, I don't care. I'm not getting swept. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this in the heat, but I needed to keep drinking water to stay hydrated, but I really needed to pee. But thank God I finished the race. And if you look at the results, my name is the last name on the second to last page that finished.
It's all right.
Hey, it's on the page, right?
It's
You
on the
finished.
page. I got the medal. I did it. Woo.
It's awesome. That's a tough challenge.
Yeah, it was definitely rough. And like I said, it was the first time I did the challenge, which was the 10K the day before. So that was my first time doing a Disney 10K race.
Wow.
So
A lot.
but
Marie, talk to us about your experience.
Yeah, and you know what, Hillary, I'm going to apologize, but we have a weekly meeting on Wednesdays at 12:15, so I have to jump off in seconds. But I'm curious to hear from the gang. I have not done a half marathon. I've run with the group. I'll run by myself, walk for an hour, but I don't know how to leap to a half marathon. Like, what's the next step after I run for an hour? I guess you run for 2 hours and then 3
Well,
hours. and so
you
on.
keep building, another 15 minutes, another 30 minutes. Every week you build a little bit more.
Right.
just do it. My second race ever was a
Yeah.
half marathon.
Really?
First race being, oh yeah, no, I went right for the jugular. It started out as a friend challenging me to do a Disney race, like a 5K or a 10K, and joking around about doing a half. I was like, you're crazy. Next thing you know, I'm training for a half marathon and I'm doing a half marathon. So just train and go for it.
Right.
Hey, you could finish second to last on the race, but you still finished.
Right.
Same here. When I ran my first half marathon, I had never run more than 6 miles in my life. And I just happened to have a doctor's appointment. And I said to the doctor, I've only run 6 miles. She says, you can run 6, you can run 13, go for it. And I did. And so as soon as I finished my first 6 miles, I said, crap, what do I do now? But it just went. And it was a hard marathon. It was 2 loops of Central Park. So I had the hills twice and it was no problem. So just sign up and do it and have
Right.
fun. Don't look at your watch. Just look at how much fun you're having.
Okay. And watch for the balloon ladies, I guess. That's it.
Yeah, that's for Run Disney.
All right. Thank you, guys. Hillary, I'm going to sign off. Thank you.
Okay, good to see.
Bye. Good luck.
Bye-bye. Thank you, guys.
Jackie, can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Hi, everybody. I'm located in Michigan, so most of my half marathons are, stuff that I can drive to from here. There's a few classic half marathons that you kind of have to do if you are a Detroiter. And one of those is the Detroit Free Press. And the reason that race, well, when it's not COVID and when it's not, like immediately after 9/11, you get to run over the Ambassador Bridge into Canada. You run a couple miles in Windsor and then you come back through the Detroit Windsor Tunnel, which is, a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with the tunnel because it's kind of hot and steamy in there. But it's just, it's part of the lure of doing that race. So that's our big Detroit hometown race. This Saturday, I'm going up to Traverse City, Michigan to do a race called the Bayshore Half Marathon. There's also a full marathon, but my complaint about that race is there's only so much shoreline I can take. So on the for the full marathon, you run out 13.1 miles and then you turn around and run back the same 13.1 miles. So, if you get kind of sick and tired of looking at the shoreline, just do the half and you'll get a beautiful view of the shoreline and be good with it. It's one of those races though, where if you don't register for it, like that morning at 10 a.m. when the registration opens up, it sells out in like 45 minutes. So the strategy that some of us have taken in the last few years was we joined the Traverse City Track Club, even though, I live 4 hours from Traverse City. We joined the track club because you can register for the race a day early. So that, that's something you have to think about if you're, like if you're a club member from the race that's being put on, like some of the New York City races that you guys typically enter. I mean, you have to be, like you have to be a New York Roadrunners Club member or something so that you can get priority registration. So that's always something to consider. And, those Disney races, I've only done 2 and both of them were Dopey Challenge. There is just a spectacular, I mean, they go all out with everything, having character,
Yep.
opportunities on the course, people getting all dressed up. And there is just something so amazingly uplifting about being at a Disney race. I mean, if you've never done one, you just don't know. And I had friends who did, and they always talked about it. And then finally I signed up for one and I was like, oh my God, these people were not kidding. Disney races are really something to experience. Now
They're
they
so
cost
fun.
they cost a fortune, and
Oh, you ain't
traveling
kidding.
there is not cheap. And, just going to the parks is pretty expensive too. So you
Don't
have to
get me
know that
started.
it's a major cash outlay to go do a Disney race. But I think Run Disney really knows how to deliver quite a race experience, and you can't go there expecting a PR. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
something that you absolutely have to know, that the races are very crowded. There's a lot of rules that need to be followed, and they tend to be pretty strict about it. Although their cutoff times are somewhat generous. I mean, it's still not for everybody. Now I'm trying to think if there's some other like other half marathons that I've done, local ones. I don't usually travel that far to do just a half marathon. If I'm traveling, it's to do a half Ironman, a full Ironman, or a full marathon. Because there's so many half marathon options that I can do locally. And I will look, at our race calendar and go, oh, look, there's one that's, being held at a metro park, which is like 2 loops around the bike path that you would normally go train on for free, but it's fully supported. They're providing, aid. Yeah, I don't know. I'll pay and support something like that, because I think, what I need to go train anyway. I might as well participate in this race. And so after I do Bayshore this Saturday, there's another really popular Michigan half marathon called the Dexter to Ann Arbor half marathon. That one's in early June. I think it's not a week from Saturday, it's a week from Sunday. And that one is on some, it's like you run only like barely any of it in Ann Arbor itself. That's where the finish line is, but you basically park there, and then they have shuttle buses that take you to Dexter, and then you run a nice road. I don't know what it's called, the Dexter to whatever. It's something named after one of the towns. And you basically follow a river. So you have some scenery during some of it, but it's not a really busy area. There's a lot of woods. And that ends up being a pretty nice course. It's got some hills to it. So that's one that I like to do, but Ann Arbor's, an hour and a half drive for me. So sometimes I got to figure like what else is happening that day, and can I do the whatever. It's almost a half day commitment, really. You got to get up at 4 a.m. and drive there and, do your 2.5 to 3 hours of running. And then, then you got to look forward to an hour and a half drive to get home. But yeah, the half marathon distance, I mean, in my mind, it's a great distance for if you're training for a full, to pack a couple half marathons into your training plan. Or if you don't feel like doing a full, then, you can recover that much easier from just doing a half. So thanks.
Yeah, that was good. Thank you. Any great half marathons in Michigan?
Other than, the must do for the free press, I think, that one ends up on people's lists. Like people who do 50 state marathon clubs, if they're going to pick a marathon in Michigan, they're going to do the free press. And if you're not a marathoner, you like to do half marathons, the free press half is really a good choice. A lot of the other ones that I used to love, they don't do anymore. You know, there used to be one in Port Huron, which I wish they still did. That was over Labor Day weekend. And I think, you know, there's so many races now, they get very competitive, and, you know, ones that lose their sponsorships, or, you know, they don't get as fully supported. They just fall off the schedule, which is unfortunate.
Cool. Well, thank you. Ray, want to talk about your experience?
Sure. I'll start with the worst, and then I'll go to the better one. I think the worst half marathon I've been in is the Long Island half. And not that it's terrible, but just because the course is boring. So, you know, there's nothing special about particularly the course.
What is the course?
It goes around East Meadow for the most part.
Eisenhower Park mostly?
Yeah, it starts and ends in Eisenhower Park, but it goes around a lot of the surrounding neighborhoods. But, you know, it doesn't pick particularly interesting streets. A lot of it is just heavily commercial. Not that there's anything wrong with commercial, because New York City is all commercial. But, you know, you don't go through any particularly interesting neighborhoods. And I also made one race particularly bad on myself because I really didn't train for it. You know, this is before I got back into running regularly. It was my, you know, 2 decades of just being a dad. And I thought I would just jump in and, you know, train for like 2 weeks, which made it, you know, incomparably worse. And, you know, just made myself miserable as a result. But that's not the fault of the course, that's my fault. But as far as the good ones, I'll echo some of the comments about, you know, the Run Disney. Sometimes there are times when you can pick apart because they, you know, they advertise about going through the parks, and sometimes they just really minimize the presence in the park and they go behind the park. And, you know, that's not fun because it's, you know, it's not the same. But I
disagree, because that's the only time you actually get to see backstage and take pictures of backstage.
Yeah, but some of the backstage isn't particularly interesting. You know, some of it is.
Fair enough.
Like the
You know,
dumpsters.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
yeah, that's so
Exactly.
exciting.
Yeah, I would love it if they when they go through Magic Kingdom, if they route it below ground, because Magic Kingdom has an extensive underground network. That would be kind
pretty
of fun.
cool, but that would be just a disaster. Oh
Right.
my God.
But they do a very good job, because most of the runs are through, you know, once you get above 10K, most of the, you know, the half and the marathon are on the back roads. And I think they do a terrific job, whether it's the video screens, the character meets, you know, whatnot. They do a really good job of, you know, making it an experience, especially because there's a lot of first time, you know, half marathon or marathons there. You know, the same thing with the mile markers. You know, the mile markers are, you know, attractions in and of themselves. So a lot of people will go there and get their picture by a mile marker, you know.
Every
Right,
mile
exactly.
marker.
I've done it plenty of times, you know.
Until
find
mile
it.
8, when you find out the balloon ladies are 5 minutes ahead of you and you go, ah!
Oh yeah. I did a 10K with my youngest daughter at Princess Weekend, and she had not been running because she had terrible problems with her knees. So at the end, we were, you know, we basically ran the last mile just ahead of the balloon ladies, and we were conspiring with some of the other runners to block the balloon ladies so we could, you know, we could stay ahead of them. But all in all, you know, despite, you know, some of the cuts that they make and, you know, some of the stuff that you quibble with, and despite the cost, it's still, you know, a positive experience. As far as one of the best half marathons that I've done, I think out east, there's a couple of women who ran a couple of Hamptons related marathons. One in the spring, which goes around Bridgehampton. The second, which goes around mostly Southampton. But before they rerouted in 2015, it was mostly running through Amagansett. And I particularly liked that course. And on that day, it was just a fabulous day. And when you're going through the Hamptons, especially the back roads, get off, Main Street, Montauk Highway, when you get into the back areas, and there's lots of horse farms or farms in general, stuff that you just don't see, when you stick to the main roads or just stick to the beaches. It's, kind of an eye opener. And that particularly course in 2015, I thought was terrific, because even at one point we're on dirt roads. And it was really good. It was a fabulous day. And it was one of those days, all of us as runner knows, there are some days when we don't feel particularly good. And then there's other days where running seems easy. And that was one of those days where running seemed easy. And it was just all in all, it made for a terrific experience. I'd also like to say, one comment about, medals. Obviously, Disney does a great job on medals. One of the most interesting medals I've ever gotten was for the Philadelphia Half Marathon, because their theme for the marathon was the Liberty Bell. And in the center of it was an actual small bell, a working small bell.
That's cool.
That was just like the kind of bell that you find on a cat's leash. So when you're walking through the finisher chute with hundreds of people around you, it sounds like you're in the middle of a herd of cats. It's really funny, and it's one of those things. What is going on? And that's what
great.
Jackie, you want to share some of your half marathons? I know you've done them all over the place.
Hi. Trying to think of what was my worst. I guess my best was my first Brooklyn half. It really was. Temperature definitely wasn't like it was on Saturday. It was not that warm by no means. But
Terrible.
it was very, it was the crowd. And when you're on Ocean Avenue on that 4-mile stretch, it just seems like it's forever. And I remember the children coming out. It was more children out cheering on Ocean Avenue than adults. And then I can flip it and say it could have been a Brooklyn half was the worst. And I share this because of having volunteered on Saturday. Until you become a turtle and slow in the pack, you really have no idea what happens at the end of when, let's say, the race is already in 2.5 hours. Well, they're breaking down water stations. If we didn't decided that we would stay beyond our time at 10 miles, there was not going to be any water at a certain time. So I've experienced that from the Brooklyn half also. And I understand that volunteers, it's a difference in the type of volunteers. Runners helping runners see it different. If you've never experienced it, you're like, okay, well, I'm out of here. Well, no, I mean, as hot as it was, oh my God, it was brutal to leave knowing that there were still runners on the course. So I've experienced good from the Brooklyn half, and I've experienced bad from the Brooklyn half.
I didn't even know that you could do that and leave while there are people still on the course.
Oh yeah.
What?
Oh yeah.
I guess because all I've done, like I said, is run Disney events, and my other Disney half was at Eisenhower Park, which was also a full. So the full people were still running while I was still struggling on my half. So
yeah, I had that, want to just kind of jump in for a second. Anybody who says that anybody in the back of the pack is not an athlete is completely deluded, because,
Thanks, Ray.
Okay, well, one, it takes a lot of perseverance, when you know that you're, whatever time behind, the leaders. The crowd is thinning out. There's not as much enthusiasm there. Sometimes the water, or any of the aid stations are either, not manned, or, they've run out of water sometime, or, something else. So anybody who perseveres through that, to my mind, is an athlete, regardless of the time. I experienced that. Yeah, I experienced that myself when I did, my first 70.3 last year, because during the half marathon portion, they left water out, but they also left flat Coke out, which attracted a lot of wasps.
Oh,
So you really wanted to pick out your water very carefully.
oh
So,
God.
But anyway, I'm sorry for interrupting there. Just had to say that.
Bill, let's hear about yours.
All right, so believe it or not, my favorite is the Brooklyn Half. I've done it 9 times. This past Saturday was the 9th. So I'm certainly not a front runner. I was wave 2 and I ran at 2:45. So I would say I was pretty close to the rear. And okay, so the water stations on Ocean Parkway, I mean, they weren't stacked 10 deep, but I was able to get water or Gatorade at every one. It was thin, but also once I saw the weather forecast, I decided a 20 ounce or 24 ounce Gatorade in my pocket would probably be a good idea. And these are extreme conditions. Saturday is not a typical half marathon day. And having run events, with the Flyers, when we have our long runs, anytime the temperature was 10, 15 above the norm, it was going to be a problem. And there's just no way to stay in front of it. And remember, the volunteers are human too. Some of them were just, they looked as bad as the runners because, they're standing out there. The only negative thing I'll say about Brooklyn, and I don't know why they don't do anything about it. Ocean Avenue is about 10 lanes, 5 each way. The shade is on the extreme left lane and the water is on the extreme right lane.
Oh God.
And if you look at my Strava, it's like this. So that was why I had 13.4 instead of 13.1. But all in all, I mean, just think about the race. You start in front of the Brooklyn Museum. And if you happen to know this, right across the street from that is an apartment building, 135 Eastern Parkway, where the actor F. Murray Abraham lives. So that's kind of exciting to me because I like him. And then, you start by the Brooklyn Museum. Before you even work up a sweat, you're at a Grand Army Plaza, which is an iconic place. Then after Grand Army Plaza, you come back. And if you don't happen to know anything about geography, you're about a block and a half from home plate of Ebbets Field. That doesn't give you goosebumps, nothing like that, okay? And then you go around the park, and then you go into the park, so you get to experience some of those hills. And a phenomenon I've always discovered in Prospect Park, it seems like you could do a full loop and the whole thing was uphill, okay? Because the uphills, when you're going counterclockwise, are long and sustained. And then the downhills are very sharp and short. So you get, so you're not making up on the downhills, but you lost on the uphills. And then Ocean Parkway, I mean, it's nice because it's, you're above sea level when you get on it. Obviously, you're going to be sea level when you get off of it. And once you go underneath the Belt Parkway, it's like this little stretch. I guess because of the way the buildings are constructed, you just get a blast of cold air. And especially on a day like Saturday, you feel like you just took a wrong turn and wound up in heaven. And then, of course, finishing on the boardwalk of Coney Island. I mean, I can't think of a better finish than the boardwalk of Coney Island. So that by far, by the way, there's 4 ways to get in to the race. And for next year, you already blew 2 of them. One is to volunteer at the Brooklyn. That's obviously too late. And the other is to do, the easiest way to do is do 4 virtual, I think 6 virtual races. And then they give you guaranteed entry next year.
And
at
we
this-
also get 4 entries.
Right.
Or club.
True. Like I said, if you're going to do it, now my worst race, I don't know, it's a photo finish between the Nassau half. And to me, the only thing worse than the Nassau half is the Nassau full, which is twice as bad as the half, you know. The difference between the half and full is 13 beautiful miles on the Wantor Highway, you know, which is just insane. I actually ran 10 minutes faster when I ran that race than I planned on because I couldn't wait to get the hell off that course. That's how bad it was. And then there's another race. I don't know if they run it anymore. It's on the not on the Belt Park. Yeah, near the Belt Parkway. You wind up going underneath the Verrazano. And so it's four out, 4 back, 2.5, 2.5. So I'm going out to 4. And I'm thinking about the Olympics at this point. I mean, I am just flying, right? And I'm patting myself on the back. Wow, I'm in such great shape. I'm natural. All the stuff you feel like when you're coming off the Verrazano Bridge on the marathon before you drop that. And I get to the 4 miles, and one of the volunteers had a little smirk on his face. He says, "Now the fun starts." And I didn't realize I had about a 50-mile-an-hour back move when I thought I was, you know, Olympic qualifier. And now I had to run into that wind. It was torture. And then the worst part is you get to the finish line, now you got to go out and do a 2.5 out and back, only this time when you got the wind in your back, you know what you got facing you. So, and just one more one. This one you want to avoid. This one actually cost me the last 8 miles of New York. Runner's World has a race. I don't know if they still do, or if it's a traveling circus or what, but this one is in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And it was about 4 weeks before the marathon. I figured, you know, it's starting to taper it down to 14 miles. I said, this would be a good race. I went to the website. I thought I was obviously at the wrong one. And nice, easy, flat course, I thought. Okay. This race is just one hill after another. As soon as one hill ends, there was only one flat area. And that was when you went around a cemetery that had no fence. Okay. Other than that, the nice thing about it is it starts at the casino, and the casino actually lets you, it's cold in Pennsylvania at the time of year. They let you sit inside by the area. They set up chairs for us. They gave us coffee for free. Let us use their beautiful bathroom. And then you're literally like, 25 feet. And then, of course, where you end is over by the abandoned steel mills, which is just if you've never seen it, they have a good Christmas festival that we usually go to. It's worth it just to see those stacks. I mean, you feel like you're in a social studies textbook when you're standing there. It's just amazing. And just one more I want to kick in. This is probably my second favorite one. It's the Fred Lebo. It's nothing exciting. It's 2.25 miles, 2.25 loops of Central Park, but it's Central Park. I mean, what's better than Central Park? Nothing. The only thing is they changed it this year just to make it a little more difficult. And you actually do the Harlem Hill 3 times now. So that extra, because the loop is like 12.2 miles. So that extra mile is one extra loop of the Harlem Hills, the hard way, where it's one big up. So the only good thing is you go down twice, up once. So, but yeah, again, it's Central Park.
What's the grade on that hill? Do you
I
know?
don't know. Yeah, hard. That's
I know it's hard.
yeah, and the worst part, and the first time you run those Harlem Hills, so you run up, you run past those rocks on your left, and you see the top of the hill, and you figure, snap, this ain't so bad. What the hell are they all talking about? And then you run the curve, you realize you're not even halfway done, and you got a lot more to go. And the only thing worse than running up those hills is trying to take a city bike up them. I've done that. That's even harder. But again,
Practice.
it's a fun race. And just for, I know you Disney fans out there, I actually ran a race in Orlando that had absolutely nothing to do with Disney. It started over by the basketball arena and just went through the residential areas, except for the 1 mile of cobblestone, which is good if you don't mind breaking your neck.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was scary. But other than that, it was a fun race, very organized, lots of support.
What was the name of
So
the race?
I don't know. I just the Orlando half. It was like in December, like
It might have
first or
been
second,
Celebration.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. that
Uh,
could be.
But it was fun. The race pickup, number pickup was very easy. There's all the essentials that I needed was right there. Dairy Queen, IHOP, Dunkin' Donuts. So, as long as I got that stuff, I don't care. The race is just secondary at that point.
But
I've,
we'll all Dunkin' while you're running.
I've done a lot of different races around the country. I've ran in California. I've never done San Francisco. I would love to do San Francisco. That's on a bucket list. I also have that Big Sur is on my bucket list. I gotta be able to learn how to run. But anyway, what else have I done? I did a few in San Jose, which I loved. I've done a lot of rock and roll, which I think they do a fantastic job. That's so much fun. I mean, when we went to Vegas, it was a blast. I've also done a bunch of the diva runs, and those were kind of fun. I did Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I've done a bunch in Florida, like the Miami half, which I loved. That was one of my favorites. I want to do that one again. New York Roadrunner, obviously, they do a fantastic job. I love their races. I think they do a great job. Again, if you're the back of the pack, you're screwed, like with the marathon. I mean, if you start out at 12 o'clock in the afternoon and you're going to be a little bit longer than 5 or 6 hours, there's nothing on the course. But what else? What was, the thing about the Disney races, I mean, some of them are fun, but for me, I felt like there was so much bottlenecking going on. And that really, I did not like that. It really bothered me. Like, I felt like, I couldn't get through anybody. Like, it was just, that was my biggest complaint about Disney.
Unfortunately, it's kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I mean, I just wish that they had less people on the course, or maybe staggered people a little bit more. I'm not sure how they could do it, because there's so
'Cause
many people.
The big problem with that is the fact that it is a park day and they have to have the park open by X amount, and they can't close it down for all the people racing. So they kind of have to do what they do.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that the one that I had done at night, I had done one, the Tower of Terror race, which was a 10-miler. And that was a lot of fun. I mean, that was just awesome.
Have
think
you ever
it's
done
funny.
the Jeff Galloway?
I did the Jeff Gall. Oh my God. Talk about hills, Bill. Jeez.
Serious?
Where's that?
I didn't think Atlanta was hilly.
Let me cross that one off. Okay.
Forget that one. Yeah. I mean, I want to sign up for Nashville. Nashville is very hilly too. Nashville is like San Francisco, there's some tough hills there.
Also, Nashville was run during their rainy season. So it's 50-50. You're going to get pretty wet.
Yeah.
The other thing that people don't mention about the Run Disney races is because it's basically associated with Jeff Galloway. There's lots of run walkers there. And there's, so if you're using your, Jim Boss or your Galloway, timer, it's really hard to keep track of, when you hear all these beeping going on around you.
Yeah.
This weekend is the Vermont Marathon. I've run that twice. There's a lot of gym bosses in that race as well.
Really?
Yeah, I was surprised. It's a small race, but I would estimate 5% of the people were It was great. I loved it.
It just seems like more and more people are doing run walk. I mean, you've got this like group that are, you've got this elite group, they're just going out and running, but it just, to me, like the more I go to these races, the more, I mean, even like when you go to triathlons, especially, everybody's doing run walk. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in the front in the pack, so I don't know what's going on, but it seems like everybody is doing it. And that's going to be the topic of our June 1st webinar. We're going to talk about the run walk, which I found was really interesting, was that I always thought Jeff Galloway was the one who invented it. And he did not. So I didn't know that. I just found out that.
Hillary, can I say something quick about that?
Wow.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday. Some guy who runs like 230, 235 marathons. His name's Tom Black. And he said on the average marathon, he'll take 5 walk breaks. This is a guy running 235. And he's telling you, yeah, I take walk breaks, at least 5 every marathon. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
You know what? There were these 2 women who I trained back in 2017, and they both run a 7 and 8 minute mile doing the run walk. They do 2 minutes, 15 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah. And they come in under 2, way under 2.
Wow.
So, Giraldi, Steve, he's not on this call today, but he did the Brooklyn half in 1:38, he told me,
Wow.
in that heat. That was good, right? And he wore our t-shirt.
Well,
Very proud.
for the 90-minute runners out of wave 1, it wasn't that hot because they started at 7 and they run a 1:35 means they finish at 8:30, 8:45. It's just us suckers in wave 2 that got killed.
Or in the back, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, getting back to the run walk, one person who used it and won the Boston Marathon several times was Bill Rogers. Not that he was doing a specific interval, but whenever he got to a water stop, he would walk through the water stop, to make sure, he drank the water. But, that's another way of incorporating it, because a lot of them used to start by running like 1 minute every mile, or walking 1 minute every mile, or doing something like that. So, and that would be equate to like doing it at a water stop.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I was doing a race once and I was like at mile 4. I had my Galloway shirt on. Total stranger comes up to me and he says, when Jeff qualified for the Olympics, he did do run walk. So I looked at him, I says, well, I guess I won't try out for the Olympics then. I don't know what his point was, I don't know why he felt the need to tell me that.
People are
So
just
now you know-
stupid sometimes.
So now Jeff didn't do run walk when he did the Olympics.
No, I knew he didn't. I
Well,
knew.
in the latest, there was just an article in Runner's World about 13 myths about running. And one of them was, about run walk, and that, run walk still counts as running. And then it cited, Jeff Galloway. It cited the fact that, if you do run walk, you're not penalizing yourself, and you usually recover much faster, than the straight runners. So.
Yeah, I mean, I did not do the run walk for Brooklyn. The first time I did Brooklyn, which again, Bill, that was one of my favorites. I love that race. That was a great race. But I did walk through the water stops, obviously. And as soon as I started training with Jeff and learning the run walk the right way and doing it for the marathon, that's when I really felt like, I was able to, really understand it. It wasn't really until then that I felt like a little bit off with it. Anybody have any suggestions in terms of nutrition or hydration before are you guys like on a half? Okay, so it takes, over 2 hours, sometimes over 3 hours to do a half. What are you drinking? What are you eating? What are you doing?
I think that's such a personal choice. You know, I think the only thing that's really important is to experiment before your race so that you can find out what the intervals are, because everybody is different. And that is the most important thing, is to really practice it, you know, on your training runs, so that when you gets to the race, you know, you basically don't screw yourself over by following somebody else's advice. So, you know, that's what I would offer.
You know, a lot of people though will say that they just drink water.
Yeah.
And
No.
I'm not sure that that's really a good
Sounds great.
idea, especially for these longer races. Anything over an hour, I would never, I mean, for me personally, no water. Anybody else?
I usually do half and half, you know, where there's water stops. I always pick up a cup of water and, you know, a cup of whatever else they have, whether it's Gatorade, Powerade, whatever. And then I usually hope I remember to pour the water over my head. So sometimes I forget.
That's the first thing I do.
Yeah.
I don't
The-
even
the
do a
way-
mile around that block without one of these. This is automatic. I always have water on me.
But you don't have electrolytes.
No. I'll, like I said, most of the time on the Run Disney courses, I will take the Powerade when I get there, but I normally don't drink it on my own. I just water all the way.
I feel like
Well,
it's a game changer when you start changing up your nutrition and hydration before any of these long endurance runs. Jackie, what do you think? Jackie B.
I'm
Oh.
sorry.
Nope.
I'm a Pedialyte person, and that's because I have GI issues. So I take Pedialyte all the time. Especially long runs, I use Pedialyte.
Jackie B.
I have, I tolerate Gatorade really well, so a lot of the races that I do that use Gatorade or even Powerade, I will take a cup at probably every water stop, maybe only take a couple sips, but I still want to make sure that I'm getting some electrolytes. You know, after reading about, I've never experienced it before, but after reading about hyponatremia and people having to be hospitalized for that, I'd rather not drink a lot of water during a race. I prefer to have something with electrolytes. But as far as other nutrition in a half marathon, I usually carry 2 goos, or if the course is going to have goo on the course, I'll usually use one about every 5 miles. And that's about it. But, you know, like comparing to a 5K or a 10K, like I'll do a 5K. I don't need any water. Even a 10K, it's going to be a little over an hour 15 minutes, maybe an hour 20, unless it's a super hot day. I don't usually feel the need to do anything, because I'm not going into it already dehydrated, and if it's only a little over an hour, then I make sure that I replenish afterward, but I don't need goo. I really don't need Gatorade or water for an hour-long workout. So, but a half marathon, if it's going to be 2.5 to 3 hours, yeah, you definitely want some goo and definitely want some Gatorade.
Bill?
So yeah, I kind of agree with Jackie. My anything 10K or less, I'm gonna have something before the race or something after the race. For a half marathon, I do water at the stations. I have Gatorade. I also have the honey stingers. Anything more than 10 miles, and I'm gonna have the honey stingers. And I try to do like 3 of them every 30 minutes or so, maybe 4 every 30 minutes during a marathon. But what I learned in 2019, because Brooklyn was pretty hot in 19 also, and I dehydrated so bad that I had to get off the subway because I thought I was getting nauseous. And then I was in bed for 2 days. That's why I carried that big bottle of Gatorade with me in addition to the water stations. So this way I was getting hydration every half mile instead of every mile. And the difference being, I felt as good at mile 12 as I did at mile 2. Okay, maybe a little, wetter, but I felt as good. And I was able to run 4 miles on Sunday and another 4 on Monday, and in 2019, I was in bed for 2 days. So there's really nothing more important than the hydration. Somebody told me that it takes 40 minutes for any hydration to have any effect. So if you're running, if you're less than 40 minutes from the finish, they said, you might feel better after the race, but there's no reason to lose time over it.
One important point is to understand what the on-course hydration will be. So if you're used to, say, running with hydration and taking a sip or having one kind of drink every mile, and the race is only set up for every 2 miles, then you're going to want to bring something with you just to supplement it, because if you need that every mile just to stay hydrated, then you need to be prepared. So, because every race is different.
Sure. That's the first thing I look at when I get the race thing is where the hydration, how far apart the hydration stations are.
Yeah.
That's more important than your sneakers. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true.
Mhm.
Absolutely. All right, any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Just a request. Anybody have any really good races like around upstate New York, New England area coming up in like the next few months? Post it on our Facebook page, because I'd love to find some new races to run. Like the Lake Placid area, Saratoga, Cape Cod, those areas.
That's
Hillary,
fun.
did Alpha Win have straight run road
They
races?
did. They had like a couple, I think they had like 4, maybe 5 races, and they were around the country. I don't know if there were any in New York. I have to look. But they were all over the place. I actually think maybe I'm going to do that one in Sarasota in January. I like that one. But yeah, I don't know. I have to look at the list. If anybody knows of another race company that's located, around the country that does races all over the place, let me know and I'll reach out to them and see if we can get a discount.
I
Run
noticed
is not going to do it.
I noticed nobody mentioned
Don't hold your breath
Rhinebeck.
on that one.
No, I'm sorry. What was that?
I noticed nobody mentioned Rhinebeck.
Rhinebeck. Well, that was fun. I mean, we had a nice discount for that one. And that was a beautiful, beautiful race. I love that race. It was very hilly. You are killing those hills, Bill. Like you and Ray would be like,
Yeah, but I felt
we would see you in another life,
that was a good diner right next to that Dunkin' Donuts, by the way.
That was a good diner.
Yeah, that was my takeaway from that race.
Yeah, they had really good pancakes.
They did.
Actually, I just want to ask the group, does anybody know of any good half marathon trail races?
I got one in Michigan.
Oh, yeah?
It's called the North Country Trail Run. It's usually held like the 3rd weekend in August. And the shortest distance that they have is a half marathon.
Would you recommend it?
Yeah, I've done it 5 times now. And it's, it's my record slowest time, right? Because it's a trail and it's pretty hilly, but it's a well-supported race and they give you tons of swag. And then after the run, they have a huge party, lots of food. It's a really good experience overall.
Mhm.
Jackie, if you could post that one, that would be great.
Yeah, I sure
Okay.
will. And then the other race, I haven't done this race yet, but a friend of mine told me about it. This one happens the same weekend as Disney Princess, and this is in Florida. It's called the Gasparilla Distance Classic.
Oh, I heard
It's all-
that. Great.
All pirate theme. So, there's like, I'm looking at the website right now and they've got like, people dressed up as parrots and, and wearing eye patches and stuff. It looks like it would be, like on par with Disney level fun, but at like, 1/3 the cost. But
So you have to choose if you want to be a pirate or a princess.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was thinking I might want to try this one because they have like all these different distances, like 5K, 8K, 10K, 15K, half marathon. So there's all these different race distances, and you can run Saturday and Sunday. Like, you know, when you do Disney, if you do a challenge, you're running multiple days. So I'm putting that one on my calendar as a potential option. I haven't registered for it yet, but that was a really good suggestion that somebody made for another Florida race, you know, to do in the winter time.
Yeah, I've heard that that's a great race, and I've heard that the swag is amazing.
Oh, okay, cool.
They give you jackets. It's like a whole thing.
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, if Jackie, if you can put that one also on the page,
Yeah.
that would be awesome. Maybe we can get a group together to do that. Everybody, we will travel, so it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
And thank you. Thank you all. And thank you, Jackie
You're welcome.
LD for coming on, and I'm glad that everybody got off the plane quickly.
I have a quick question. Hillary, when are you considering doing the century?
Oh, the Century Ride, we're thinking about doing it October.
Wasn't it October
October
15th?
22nd.
Oh, 22nd.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Second run.
Have a good day, everyone.
Ride. Bike
Bye-bye.
ride.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
All right, bye, everyone. Have a
Bye,
good night.
guys.